Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Dalid. Daf Kuf Dalid in Baba Kamas. We learn for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael on Asur Matzar B'Shivya. It says the Gemara at the two dots, about 8 lines down on the page. Itmar Shliach She'aso Be'edim. Ruvain has some money deposited with Shimon. He wants to send a messenger to pick it up. Okay, he sends a messenger to pick up the money from Shimon, and something happens on the way. Who's responsible? Is Shimon responsible because Reuben didn't get his money back? Or is Reuben responsible? He appointed the shliach. So we have a machlokes. Rav Chisda says, if you appointed a shliach with Edom, if Reuben, who was collecting the money from Shimon, appointed a shliach in front of Edom, so he commissioned him to pick it up. So it's his job to pick it up. If the shliach loses the money, it's Reuben's tough luck. Shimon gave the money to a properly appointed shliach. So if Chisda says it's a shliach, Rabbi says no, it's not a shliach. Love a shliach. That's why I took the trouble, and I set up this shliach. I appointed the shliach in front of witnesses to like a b'shusay, that it should be considered in the rishus of Reuven. Reuven set up the shliach in front of Edom, and he appointed him to be the shliach. That's why he did it in front of Edom, to say that, yeah, he's my messenger, and if something happens to the money on the way, after my messenger has the money, it's my tough luck. I appointed him in front of Edom. Rabbi says, no, lo b'shliach. This that I appointed him in front of Edom did not mean to say that I take responsibility away from Shimon. All I'm saying is to Shimon, inish mamnu, I trust this guy. I know this guy. I trust him. If you want to rely on him, you can rely. If you want to send it with him, I know this guy. He's a reliable guy. But I'm not taking responsibility if something happens to him en route. That's the machlokas here between Rav and Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda seems to be more logical. If I sent my messenger to pick him up, and I appointed this messenger, this shliach, in front of witnesses, he's my agent. So as soon as he picked it up, it's considered as if he returned it to me. That's Rav Chisda's opinion. Now we're going to see questions about this. Tanan, Hasholas Apara. Marmor sees it like this. Let's say the lender. The person who borrowed, the borrower and a lender. The person borrowed somebody's cow, okay? And the lender who owned the cow, the farmer, let's call him, the shilcha biyad beno, and he sent the cow in the hands of the farmer's own son, biyad avdo, or his slave, biyad shlucha, in the hands of his messenger. O biyad beno, biyad avdo shall shoel. Even if he sent it in the hands of the son or the servant or the shliach of the borrower, umesa, and the animal died en route, potter. The shoel is potter, even though it was the borrower's own shliach. How is he appointed? If he didn't appoint him in front of witnesses, so it's not, we don't know for sure that he's the proper shliach. How would the farmer know to give it to him? If he wasn't a properly appointed agent, it says proof that you're the agent, how would he know to give it to him? It must be that he made a shliach with Edom Miktani the potter. Even though you made the shliach with Edom and you appoint him in, still the borrower is potter. Kasha of Chisda. It's a kasha of Chisda. Chisda says that he's a properly appointed agent and he's responsible. You're responsible if you appointed him. It's your responsibility. Here he's mashma, you potter either way. So the Gemara says, no, that's no proof. Rav Chisda explains it in the next case, Beschiro Velakito. We're talking about when he wasn't properly appointed. Simply, the farmer, the lender, knew that this person that the shliach was a worker of the borrower, or lakito, or he was a lodger. He stayed with him. He was his roommate. Let's call it. So he knew that the guy was well known to the borrower, and that's why he sent it. But he wasn't the properly appointed agent that would take responsibility. That's what Rav Chisda says in the next cases we'll see. So that's not a kasha on Rav Chisda, because that's not a case where you properly appointed the agent in front of two witnesses. If you properly appointed him, that means that you're taking responsibility. What about our Mishnah? Our Mishnah was talking about a case where you stole money from somebody and you swore falsely about it and then you admitted it, right? So the pasuk says, because Asher who you so you have to make sure it gets back into the guy's hands. If you did all this, not enough just to return it. You got to make sure it gets into his hand. You can't send it in the hands of your son or whatever. So what does the Mishnah say? Can't give it to the son or the shliach of the nigzal, person who's stolen from. If he wasn't appointed with Edom, How does he know to give it to him at all? How do you know he's a shliach? How do you know these are shliach? You say you're the gazlan, you're doing tshuva now, right? After you swore falsely, you admitted it. Now you want to make amends. You want to pay it back. You got to give it all. Make sure he all the way gets back to LA. You got to give it to the hands of the nigzal. Don't give it to the son of the shliach. How do you know who's the shliach? How do you know he's a shliach? How would you know to give it to him? You made a shliach with Adam. You made a shliach with Adam, and still you say what? That it's not kosher. You can't give it to him. It's not like you're giving it back to the nigzal itself. So here, talking about this is where Chris explained it. But he was your worker, meaning you shouldn't give it to a shliach because you know this guy. He's the worker or he's the roommate of the nigzal, and that's why you gave it to him. That's not good enough. But if you appointed a shliach with Adam, that would be a good shliach. Is that what you're saying? According to Rav Chisda, this side of you say in our mission, you have to give it all the way back to the nigzal. Can't give it to a son or to a shliach, whatever. Oh, that's why he was not a properly appointed shliach. But if he was a properly appointed in front of witnesses, would you say that's good enough? So why did the Mishnah say Adatani save the Mishnah Zaval knows shliach bezdin? You can give it to shliach bezdin. Why say okay? You can't give it to a shliach or to somebody. You give it to a shliach bezdin. Especially as we saw, if it takes too much, costs too much money to travel to the nigzal, you can give it to shliach bezdin. You can give it. Why talk about shliach bezdin? They're making afkamina by the kind of agent, the kind of shliach that you have. Medvar mamurim, it says the Bach. Listen to today. Listen to say, medvar mumur shliach shlo sabedim. Where do you say you can't give it to a son or to the shliach when the shliach that was not properly appointed with Adam? Avol shliach also be'Adam. There would be a good shliach. Why don't you make that nafkamin if that would really be the case? That a shliach that you appoint with Adam is considered a good shliach, like Rav Chisda. Amri, Chisda will say lo psikle. The Mishnah didn't want to give that case because it's not definite. Why? Because shliach bezdin, the rules if he's a shliach bezdin, no matter who appointed him to be a shliach bezdin. Shliach bezdin loshna also nigzal. Makes a difference if if the nigzal appointed said, this court, this shliach bezdin, he's a properly appointed court. Whether the nigzal appointed him, or the gazlan said, that's either way. I'll give it to shliach bezdin. Shliach, that's psikle, that's definite. Because you talk about shliach bezdin, makes no difference if who appointed him, like who said, okay, I'll rely on the court. But shliach she'asu be'edem, or a shliach that you made with Adam, the chiyasa nigzal hu rabbi shliach. It's only good if nigzal made a shliach. In other words, the gazlan has to return the money, right? He has to return the money and add a fifth and all that. So you could give it to a shliach bezdin, no matter who appoints shliach bezdin. But according to Rav Chisda, if the nigzal appointed a proper shliach with Adam, you are my shliach, that would be good. But it's only if the nigzal appointed him. That's not so definite. So shliach shasa bezdin, psikle, shliach shasa bezdin, no matter what kind of whoever appointed the shliach bezdin, it's a good shliach. It's a good shliach. But shliach shasa be'edem, if he also nigzal whoever, it's only good shliach if the nigzal appointed him. The nigzal said, okay, I'll rely on him. You can give the money back to him. But also gazlan lo shliach lo psika, so it's not definite, and that's why he gave that case in the Mishnah with shliach bezdin. But in Nachanabi, Rav Chisda would say that if the nigzal appointed a shliach with Adam, then the gazlan could be yotzei his obligation to return the money by giving it to that shliach if it was appointed by if the nigzal was appointed a shliach, if the nigzal appointed a shliach with Adam.
If something happened to that money and the way, who's responsible?
So if the nigzal appointed a proper shliach with two Adam, according to Rav Chisda, that would be good enough. It's the nigzal's loss.
What I understand is that the Adam are extension of the.
Well, the Adam are just proving that the Adam are proof that the shliach is a proper shliach. That's right. That the shliach is an extension. Shliach shlam kamoso. Shliach shlam kamoso. That's a general rule. You can send a man to marry a woman for you. So you're going to do it on your behalf. You could just shliach for almost anything. And shliach b'aravera. There's exceptions, but generally a shliach is good. And a woman could point a shliach to accept her get, and you could send a get with a shliach. Shliach shlam kamoso. However, here the question is he a shliach? Is he a proper shliach? How do we know he's a shliach? So if Christos, if you appoint a shliach with Adam, that's there's no question. Therefore, we know. But in the case where if everybody's motive, there's no issue. But Rabbah says even if you appointed a shliach with Adam, that doesn't absolve the person who's sending the money of his obligation to get you the money. Even if you appointed with Adam, all you're saying is that I'm not saying that giving the money to my agent is like giving the money to me. All I'm saying is this is a trustworthy guy. If you want to trust him, I can vouch that he's a trustworthy guy. You ever say somebody asks you advice? Should I do business with this guy or not? and you say, yeah, I trust him. He's pretty well known. Then the guy does business with him and he loses money. Is it your responsibility? You just said, yeah, I thought he's a trustworthy guy. I'm not taking full responsibility for anything you sign with him. That's Rabba's point. So Chisda says, though, if that when I say, listen, if I appointed this shliach in front of Adam, I said, he is my messenger. That means that if you give him money, it's like you gave it to me. That's what Chisda's point. And that's what he's saying in our Mishnah too. That would be the case too. Now, this that we just said, that our mission is a definite thing. If you get the shliach bezdin, if he's a shliach of bezdin, no matter who appointed the shliach bezdin, meaning, obviously, if it's a shliach of bezdin, then bezdin appoint him shliach. But the question is, do you rely? Is it the gazlan or the nigzal who's saying I rely on that court? So in either way, it's okay. But this disagrees with a different Tana. The Tana of Shmuel Lazar Omer shliach bezdin shaso nigzal. If the nigzal says I rely on that shliach bezdin, below also gazlan. Let's say the Gazlan, if the Nigzal appointed him, then it's okay. Then it's a shliach bezdin. If the Gazlan appointed this bezdin, no, it's not good enough. You might say, it's like you ever go. Somebody said, let's go to a din Torah. We have a dispute. Okay, which din Torah are we going to? Which din Torah are we going to? I once had a case where the Haredi guy came to me and says, okay, he had some convoluted, claim against me, which made no sense at all. So I said, it's ridiculous. I paid this fee that you think I paid it already to somebody else, and you have no claim whatsoever. He said, okay, let's go to a din Torah. So I said, yeah, sure. You want to go to a din Torah to your Haredi rabbis, right? He says, no, I'll go to any din Torah. You can get the kippot sugot rabbis. You can go to any rabbi. Why? Because he knows that in a din Torah, 9 times out of 10, what's the pshara? So he figures he'll get something, even though he has no claim. Even if he has no claim, he'll get something at a din Torah. He'll get something. Whatever. Huh? No, I didn't go. And he never sued me. He never brought me into it because he had no claim. He had no claim at all. It was a convoluted, ridiculous claim. It was this. Yeah. Anyway. But there's bad will to this day on that. This is a story of 20 years ago. In any case, not bad will on my part, but bad will on his part because. He runs the Mu'cheret here in Ramot, and sometimes I am at a disadvantage because of that. Anyway, Rav Shmuel Lazar Omer shliach bezdin she'aso nigzal. Rav Shmuel Lazar says that it's only a proper shliach bezdin, like this says, if you give it to bezdin, that's okay. Only if the nigzal appointed him. Below us a begazlan. The gazlan made a b'shal chalav and atal shalo. If the gazlan appointed him, but then the nigzal came and he got the money miyodo, then he's potter. But otherwise, if the Gazlan appointed the shliach bezdin, then that wouldn't suffice. But this is not what we just said. We just said, according to Chisda, the reason the Mishnah said the shliach bezdin, give it to shliach bezdin, and not to a shliach appointed by Adam by the nigzal, is because any shliach bezdin is good enough, whether it was appointed by the Gazlan or the nigzal. The shliach bezdin, that's considered a proper, returning of the stolen goods. They also agree with Rav Chisda. Shliach shasu be'edim. If you appoint a shliach with edim, Havashich is a proper shliach. And if the nigzal appointed edim to collect, appointed a shliach with edim to collect the money, and you gave it to that shliach, you fulfilled your obligation. Im Torah Mishnah Seinu. So why doesn't our Mishnah say that? Why does our Mishnah say you can give it to a shliach bezdin, but it doesn't talk about a regular shliach? Says a Mishnah, I'm going to say a shliach. Our Mishnah speaking about where he just suggested a shliach. The Amar listen, Isli Zuzi Gabe Planya. The thing is, listen, I got some money that guy owes me over there, but look, Mashal, he's not sending it to me. Skazile, appear in front of him. In other words, make yourself known to him. Maybe you just can't find somebody to send it, and therefore you can give it to him. In other words, our Mishnah is not speaking about a shliach that was appointed by Bezdin, appointed with Adam. Right, Rashi says, "Im Tomer Mishnah saying that Tani Leit L'Shlucho don't Shliach V'Id Lo Asu BeAdim." How do we know if he didn't make point of Adam, must have been with Adam? So why can't you give it to the shliach that was done by Adam? If according to Rav Chisda and according to Rav Lezer and Rabbi Yochanan, a shliach appointed by in front of witnesses is a proper shliach, so why can't you give it to him? And it must be that how would you give a shliach if he wasn't appointed by Adam? The answer is speaking about where he wasn't really appointed. He just said, listen. You're going to be over there. Maybe collect the money for me if you're there. He didn't really appoint him in front of Adam. He just said, make yourself known. This guy owes me money. He's not sending it to me. Sometimes to make the guy owes you money and he doesn't pay you, it's, he wasn't pressured to pay. He didn't get a chance. He didn't have an envelope. It's in the mail. Sometimes you have to actually go there and pick up the check. That's the only way you get it. So he says, listen, you're going to be there. Make yourself known that you're a friend of mine and let him give you the check. I'm going to, or you could say, like Rav Chissa speaking about, our Mishnah said, where we're speaking, where how would the person know which shliach to give it to? because he knew that this person was a worker or a roommate of the nigzal, and that's why he would give it to him. But it's not speaking of a case where the nigzal appointed a shliach with Adam. Even in our Mishnah, we would say that according to Rav Chissa, if the nigzal appointed a shliach with Adam, you could give it to that shliach, and it's as if you return the money directly into the hands of the nigzal. I'm Rabbi Shmuel. Ain, and I'm based on Ain Mishach Mos B'Dyukni. Don't send money based on a dyukni is like a sign or an emblem, like a form, just the form, meaning like a stamp or a simon of something. What does that mean? That if you owe money to somebody, and that somebody sent a shliach with a piece of paper, I am hereby collecting the money on behalf of that, and the guy's stamp is on there, like a form or a stamp. Don't pay the money based on that. Even if there's Adam signed on it, that's what Shmuel says. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, there's Adam signed on it, that's a proper document. Amri, so he said, according to Shmuel, what's your remedy? How are you going to collect the money? How can you collect the money? The guy's over there in another town, and you're not capable of going there. And you sent a shliach, somebody's going over there, and you give him a proper power of attorney form, and you've signed it and stamped it, everything. That's not good enough. How are you going to collect the money? How you collect the money? Rav Abba, there was a story with Rav Abba, who was an elderly man at the time. He was owed money from Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef owed Rav Abba money. Amalei Rav Safra. So Rav Yosef said to Rav Safra, who was his shliach, Hadi to us, when you go over there, you're going to be in the town near this Rav Yosef. I said, bring me my money. When he went there, when Rav Safra went there, and he tried to collect the money from Yosef, Amalei Rava, the son of Rav Yosef, the son of the borrower, Bray said, Rava Bray said, the son of Rav Yosef, said to Rav Safra, the shliach, did he give you a document that says that you can give me a receipt? Iskabalti is like a receipt, meaning that if I pay you now, you're collecting the money for Rav Abba. If I give you money now, can you give me a receipt to say the money's been paid? I got been paid. Did he give you such a receipt to give me? Amalei lo, he didn't give me a receipt. First, go bring me a receipt. I'm not paying the money unless I have a receipt. They didn't have checks in those days. Right. Yeah, right. They were smart, right? Amalei lo, first give me a receipt. And then he said, you know what, Amalei? It won't even help to give me a receipt. Even if he gives you a receipt, lav klumi. Why? By the time you come back, shachav Rav Abba, maybe by the time you come back here, go back there, whatever, maybe Rav Abba will die before I get the receipt. That is, before you come back, Rav Abba was an older man, and you're going to go back and get a receipt from him and bring it to me. By the time you come to me, he might be dead. Now, if he dies, what happens? Who owns the money? Who owns the loan? The kids. And his receipt's not worth anything. It doesn't work. It doesn't work after death. He didn't get the money. He was dead. So therefore, that's an amalei velamai takanta. So what can you do? How can you collect the money? Rabbi Yochanan says if there's Adam signed on it, that's good enough. It's a power of attorney. I gave it to him. It's like I pay you. But according to Shmuel, that a simple like a power of attorney collection form is not good unless you have a receipt. And even with the receipt, maybe the guy's dead. It says Elamai takanta zil nikninu l'cha agavara. What you should do is this. You, Rav Safra, you want to be the messenger, you tell Rav Abba that he should give you the loan. In other words, he would give it to you, give you the loan. In other words, now the loan is yours. He gives it to you, right? He gives it to you. He gifts to you. He gifts you what we call here. He gifts you the loan that many of the money belongs to you. How does he do that? Zil niknina l'cha agavara. How can he acquire it to you? It's really like a star. The answer is you can't with the kinyan agav. It's the nechasim shein lachrayis, nechasim sheyesh lamachrayis. agav the karka. Remember, we had that solution, meaning he gives you a piece of land next to his house. How? V'ta at, and you come, and Kosom, and you can come and write me a skabalti. In other words, you have to be the owner of the loan. The loan is transferred to you, this messenger, and when I pay you, then I'm done, because you own the loan now, and I'm paying you, and you give me a receipt. Who's owed $12,000, a lot of money in this town. He wasn't able to go get that. Rav Shmuel Barabba, and Rav Shmuel Barabba was traveling to that town, and he transferred the loan to Shmuel Barabba, that he would be the owner of the loan. How? Agav a sefer the besa. He did it. Agav a sefer the besa either means the threshold of his house, like thing, or the corner of his house, meaning I'll give you a piece of a square inch of my property, right? I'm giving that to you. I'm giving that to you. I'm handing it to you. Kesef shtar chazaka. However he did it to him, maybe he gave him a penny, gave him a kesef or a shtar or chazaka, and then together with that, together with the karka, he can acquire the loan, which is the chasam she'ela machrayis, right? Acquire the loan. He also, he was so happy, and this worked. Shmuel Barabba went and collected the $12,000, and Rav Papa was so happy that he was able to collect the money that way, because otherwise there was no way that the borrower would give the money to this shliach. And he went out and greeted him ad tuvach. He went a far distance to greet him. It's like, you're happy when somebody comes home. You go all the way out miles and miles just to greet them coming home. He went out to greet him that way. So the only way to get the loan back, in this case, according to Shmuel, would be you give the messenger, you transfer ownership of the loan to the messenger, and then he's collecting it for himself. Right. He's transferring the IOU. The IOU effectively is transferred from the lender. He's giving him the IOU. He's giving him, and there must be proof that he owns it also, right? Like he gave him a shtar that I'm giving you the IOU. I'm transferring ownership of the IOU to you. Now, how does he do that? He does that agav karka. Rashi says, Nelch agav karka v'yivshacha b'chol makom shem d'kaim lo kedushin the chasam shein lachrayis nikim chasam sheish lamachrayis. So you can give it to him, together with the house. Because some say that if you would just transfer the IOU with words, giving it to him, words alone can't be transferred. But if he's transferring it to him, he's giving him the shtar agav the karka, so then he's kohen, just like he's kohen the karka, he's kohen that with it too. Now, what did our Mishnah say? That if you gave him the keren, you paid back the keren, but you didn't pay back the chomash yet, or he was mochel the keren, mochel the chomash, or mochel el zeh, except and all that's left out was less than a shava pruta, then he doesn't have to run after him. Maybe he has to pay him all back, as we'll see in tomorrow's daf, but he doesn't have to run after him. Alma chomash mono. The fact that you have to say, Rashi says, the fact that you have to say that you don't have to run after him that you don't have to run after it to pay him back the chomash. It's mashma though you owe him the money. Mashma that it is really money. Meaning the question is the extra 20% or 25%? Is that actually, it's 25% of the amount of the gzela, 20% of the total? Is that considered mammon or is it kanas? So he says it's actually mammon. Meaning, in what sense? The imace, mishamale yorshim. If the guy died, you have to pay the yorshim. And as if the yorshim would have to pay. In other words, if the gazlan died, the gazlan owes money to somebody and he dies, so his kids owe him the money. Is that really money? Is the 25% money, or is it like a fine that's only existence when he's alive? No, it's real money. Because the fact, Rashi says, from the fact that you have to say you don't have to run after him, it's mashma, but you do owe him the money. And if the gazlan dies, the yorshim would have to pay. Tananami, the Mishnah also goes on to say, let's say you pay the keren, and then you denied that you swore that you paid him the 25%, but you didn't actually pay him, and then you admit it, so you have to pay chomash al chomash, or most of chomash al chomash, chomash mono. The fact that when do you pay? When is there the extra 25%? When you deny money that you owe, either you stole it or it was given to you as a loan or a deposit, whatever, and you deny it, you deny real money, and you swore falsely about it, then you have to pay the keren, the principal, pay the extra 25%, and if you bring a carbon, right? So that's only if you're denying money. So the fact that it could be a chomash on top of a chomash, because you denied the first chomash, you said I paid that already, and you swore false about it, then you admit it, you pay another chomesh, and that shows that it's money. We learn it. You stole money from somebody, our case, and you swore to him that you didn't steal it or that you paid it back. Umeis, right? Umeis, and then you died. Yorshim Misham lo Keren Chomesh. Yorshim have to pay the Keren Chomesh because the 25% is like the principal. Uptur Menashim, they don't have to pay the Osham. They don't have to bring the Osham because the guy's dead. And the Osham is an atonement. And after death, there is no atonement, right? The Mason don't need atonement. They're already Ain Kapar the Mason, says Rashi. So you see over here, and they have to pay because it's money. So he has in the parentheses, Alma Chomesh Monu Boshlamei, I Verminu, is it really Chomesh money? Verminu. Adaina, and Yomer Amos Chomesh. When do you say that the son doesn't pay the Chomesh al Gesel of it, something that his father stole? Bisman Shalom Nishbalo Huvalo of it. If neither one of them swore, then you certainly don't pay the Chomesh. Let's say Huvalov, let's say he swore but his father didn't, or Avav Lahu, or his father swore falsely, not him, or Huva Avav, they both swore falsely. Menayin, how do I know still that the son does not pay the chomesh? In other words, you don't pay chomesh for your father's crime. You don't pay chomesh for that. So on the one hand, we just said from our mission, it's evident that chomesh is money. If the guy died, if the Gazlan died before paying the Karen and the chomesh, you have to pay the Karen. The son, the children have to pay. No, it's Xeris Akasim.
So Kanas otherwise would be inheritable?
Not a Kanas. It's not a Kanas. It's Mamam. It's Mamam. But over here, it's Xeris Akasim that the son doesn't have to pay the Chomesh. That's what we're saying at this point.
Okay.
That's what we're saying at this point. The Xeris Akasim doesn't have to pay. So on the one hand, you said that he does have to pay. It's money, and if the son dies, he has to pay. Here it's mashma from this brisa, right? That a son does not have to pay the Chomesh. How do you? It says for a minute. And when does the son pay the chomesh? When nobody swore falsely. But how do I know if the father swore falsely, if he swore falsely, or they both swore falsely? How do I? He still doesn't pay the chomesh. Why? Because when it's pasuk, so you see that the son does not pay the chomesh. In the first case, the father was moda, right? The father was moda before he died. He was moda that he stole the money. So then there's an obligation to bring the osham and to pay the 125%, right? Pay the 125%. Then the father died. So the Osham you don't bring, but the 125% the Khans have to pay. Here, in this case, it's speaking more Shalo Hoda. And we're assuming now that nobody was Moda, right? Because Rashi says that's below Hoda, below bed, nobody was Moda. So then you don't pay. Then you don't pay the Chomesh. So when do you say that the son pays the Chomesh? When the father was Moda before he died. But over here, the father was not Moda before he died. And therefore, the son doesn't have to pay the Chomesh. Kanshla Hoda. The Gemara says, "Elo hoda karanam sham." If the father didn't admit to the loan, and he died, why would he even pay the Karen? The father denied that he stole the money, right? And then he died, and he swore falsely about it, but he never was moda. So elo hoda karanam sham. Maybe you're right. Maybe the son doesn't pay the Karen if the father was not moda. Since you're talking about how do I know that the son doesn't pay the chomesh, it's mashma that the Karen he does pay. Tanya, we learned the Bryce says with favor Shadain and Yomer Amasai who Mishalim Karen. When does the son pay the Karen? Remember, before we talk about when does the son not pay the chomesh? Never. The son does not pay the chomesh, right? The son doesn't pay the chomesh then we said that's when the father didn't admit it before he died. When does the son pay the Karen? Al Gezalav Bisman Shanishbahu Bavit. If him and his father both swore, what about Avav Lohu or Huv Lo? What happens if the father swore but he didn't? Or Lohu Lo Avav? Neither one of them swore. Man, how do I? You still have to pay. Talmud Gzela Oshek Aveda Bekadin. All these cases, why did you have to tell me Gzela and Oshek and Aveda Bekadin? All cases where the father misappropriated the money. Yesh Talmud. You see from over here, Yesh Talmud. We'll see what this means. This is a strange lashon. You see from over here, there's a limud from these extra words, Gzela, Oshek, Aveda, it's stolen money, stolen goods, misappropriated goods have to be returned. That means to say that the son does pay back the Karen, even if nobody swore. Now, what is that word Yesh Talmud? Yes, Rav Huna B'Kamar, he wasn't that. The word Yesh Talmud is two words, right? There is a limud from over here, right? Yes, Rav Huna B'Kamar might be repeated over this ruling. Amle Rabba Bray, Rabba's son said, Yesh Talmud, did you say Yesh Talmud Kamar Mar? Did you mean say Yesh Talmud? You see from these extra words in the Pesukim to tell me that outstanding Karen has to be repaid no matter what. If the father stole, whether he swore or whether he didn't swear or whatever it is, if you know that he stole, the son has to pay back that money. Yesh Talmud Kamar, Yesh Talmud Kamar. In other words, the word Yesh Talmud could be said Yesh Talmud, there's learning, or Yesh Talmud, Yesh Talmud, Yesh Talmud. Yeah, it's a Yesh Talmud. If they say it real quick, it could sound like Yesh Talmud or Yesh Talmud, Yesh Talmud, Yesh Talmud, right? Which means that he should pay. It's a svara that he should pay. Which one is it? Is it Yesh Talmud? You see from the extra psukim, or Yesh Talmud Kamar like it's a svara? The son should have to pay. Why should he keep stolen goods? Yesh Talmud, I'm going to Yesh Talmud come in. I mean, Yesh Talmud, the extra words. The croft, from the extra words, you see that the son has to pay, right? El Amri Ela Mai Lohoda. So what's going on over here? Mai Lohoda, Lohoda Aviv, Lohoda Beno. In other words, what are you saying? First, you said that the son has to pay back the chomish. Oh, that was where the father admitted it before he died. Okay, but the father didn't admit it. You don't have to pay the chomish. If the father didn't admit it, why should you even have to pay the Karen? Right? You shouldn't even have to pay the Karen. Now you'll tell me maybe you don't pay the Karen. Here you see from this lima that you do pay the Karen. Ella, the reason he pays the Karen is because the son was moda. Elamai lohoda, lohoda, the father wasn't moda. If the father was moda, then the son has to pay the Karen and the chomish. Even right, if the father was not moda, then you don't pay the Karen, you don't pay the chomish. If the father wasn't moda, there was no chiyuv for that. But the hoda beno, but the son was moda. If the son was moda, he has to pay the Karen. If the son, the father was not moda before he died, right? And that's why there's no chiyuv on the chomish, but the son doesn't pay the chomish. But if the father didn't admit it, why should he even have to pay the Karen? The answer is that the son admitted it. The son admitted that his father, he knows that his father stole these goods and he has to return it. So if the son admitted it, the son should have to pay chomish because he admitted it, right? He admitted after he himself swore and then swore falsely and then admitted it. So then he should pay chomish for that. Amri b'shem zel kayemis. Xeel's not here right now. Notice if the father stole something and the son admitted it, but the Xeel's not here, then you don't pay chomish. The chomish is only b'shem zel kayemis. Rashi says the lavala rami l'shlume. The son doesn't have to pay. In other words, if the father stole something and it's not here anymore, let's say your father was a criminal and he stole a lot of goods. And then he died, but there was nothing here at the time. Is the son responsible to go pay out of his own assets for his father stole? No, he's not mechuyev to pay it. So therefore, and as his son goes on machil, it's mishalim. If he denied it that his father stole, it's not kfira. Denying it, we say you swore falsely. Denying the loan is only if it's here. But if it's not here, the son has no responsibility for it. It's fierce from the Almi, ushvus bitu, like a chomish. It's like he's wearing falsely. The son knew that his father stole it, but the stuff's not here anymore. The stolen goods or the money is not extant here anymore. But the son swore falsely anyway. He wanted to say his father wasn't legal, he swore falsely. So it's a bad shvua. But there's no chomish over there if the stuff isn't here. So you shouldn't pay the Karen either. What are we saying over here? That the son, if the father admitted before he dies, then the son pays the chomish. If the father didn't admit it before he dies, the son doesn't pay the chomish. But if the father didn't admit it, why should he even have to pay the Karen? There's no obligation to pay the Karen. The answer is the son admitted it. Okay, if the son admitted it, why doesn't the son admitted after the son swore falsely? So why should there be chomish? The answer is because the stuff isn't here right now. There's no Karen chomish. There's no chomish if the stuff isn't here. There's no, if the father denied it and then admitted it while he was alive, even if it's not here, he has to pay it because he denied it when it was here. But if the son, if the stuff isn't here, the son doesn't have to pay chomish on the son's shvuah when it's not here. So why should you have to pay the Karen? So let's read them. Now Rashi here is a different gear than our Gemara, but I mean there are some achrayas, meaning there's some real estate here. And if there's real estate, Rashi explains that there's a mitzvah for the covenant of his father, he should pay it out of that. The son doesn't have a real obligation to pay back the stolen goods because the goods aren't here, but the father did leave over some real estate. And out of respect for the father, the son should pay it back out of covenant for his father. Now, our Gemara has so what if it's achras, but it's only milva peh? There's no shtar over here. Amri b'shama b'din. So Rashi takes out these last two lines and said b'shama means that the father was taken to court while he was still alive. So he was taken to court while he was alive, and he was there. He admitted he should pay the chomish. Now Rashi takes out all the last two lines, and he says, Rashi says he doesn't like this gear, so it doesn't make sense. So he says that when he says the question is, if there's real estate, so im kain, chomish nam misham, you should pay the chomish also. So Rafuna says, no, you don't pay chomish on a kfira. The father, the stolen goods aren't here anymore, but there is real estate. The answer is, the son has to pay because the father left some real estate, so it's proper to pay it back. But denying it, and the only responsibility would be the karka that's mashur, but you don't swear in karka. So therefore, even if the son made a shvua that his father never stole it, and then he admitted it, he's not swearing about the goods, he's swearing about the chiyuv for the karka. Rashi explains in the narrow lines, the chomish of my kosi ashvuasa, lav shvu, it's not a shvu, the kam of shvu is einish mon al karkos. V'hai ben ki yishtaba, when he swore, kafala shibid karkos. Di lav mishim machrayis lechasim lav, he wouldn't have to pay at all. So one answer is that the stuff isn't here anymore, and the only reason that the son should pay the keren is because his father left some real estate, and there's no shvua on the real estate. Rava says no, the stuff is here, the stolen goods is here, but what? The father left his satchel in somebody. The father who was the ganav had stolen, let's say, $10,000, and the money was in the satchel, and he left the satchel in the safe deposit box or at Yankel's. He left it at somebody else's house. All right. So Karen Mishalem, you pay the Karen. The son has to pay the Karen. Because the money's here. When he swore, what's the chiyuv for? Why do you pay the extra 25% of chomish? Because he swore falsely. It's a punishment for swearing falsely. Yes, it is cash, and if the father admitted it, it's mammon, it's principal, and the son would have to pay it. If the father admitted before he died, the son would have to pay the 25%. But over here, the reason why he doesn't pay it is here. The father died, he didn't admit it. Right? The son also swore falsely, and now he admitted it. But over here, he didn't really swear falsely, because when he said that he doesn't have the money, he didn't know that the money was here. The money was in a satchel deposited with the uncle, and he didn't know that it was here. So if it turns out afterwards it was here, the Karen, he has to pay back to Isa. Chomish lo mishalim, he doesn't pay the chomish. The chiyishtaba, when he swore b'kush tishtaba, the law he didn't know that the money was somewhere else. Rashi says, Rabba Amar, lo migzal kem, so the kash lo chai ben chomish al shvuas atzmo, keeping the hoda, since he was moda afterwards. Ach shai said this gets shemama aviv nasamba mufkeres bi'arachayim. He didn't know that he says, I don't have any money. I don't have the money here, but my father stole. He didn't know. Here he made a mistake. He didn't know that his father had stolen money over here. So he swore truthfully. And that's why he has to pay the 25%. So what are we saying here? That if the father admitted it before he died, then you have to pay the chomish. If the father didn't admit it and the son did admit it, but if the gzeil is not here, he's not really mechuyev to pay. He'd only mechuyev to pay only because his father left some real estate out covered for the father. Okay, but the shvuah in that doesn't count. And even if it is here, it could be speaking about where the son swore falsely, but he didn't know that it was a false shvuah. He thought he was telling the truth. Therefore, he doesn't pay the 25%. So basically, we're saying that the son would have a chiyuv to pay the 25% if the father admitted before he died. If the father didn't admit it and the son admitted it, then it depends on the circumstances. The Mishnah said, let's say you paid back, he was mochel the keren. He was mochel, he didn't have to pay the keren. Or mochelos, he was mochel everything, except for less than a penny's worth of the keren, then he doesn't have to run after him. That's what the Mishnah said. That's the only thing is not here. In other words, what you stole and then you swore falsely about, and then you'd have to pay the 25%. But let's say there's nothing to pay. Let's say he paid back the Karen, but he didn't yet pay the Chomish. Or Machal Karen, but Machal Chomish says the obligation to run after and pay the guy directly is only on the Karen. let's say all that's left is the Chomish, or he was Mochel everything, and all that's left of the Karen is less than a penny, he doesn't have to run after him. So he says that's only if the Gzeil is not here. But if the Gzeil is here, if the money is here, the stuff that he stole, whatever is here, he has to go back and try to make amends and return it to him. If the item's here, even if it's worth less than a Shavapruta, maybe it'll become worth more afterwards. And it's less than a Shavapruta is usually not considered anything. But if the Gzeil is here, even if now it's worth less than a Shavapruta, maybe it'll be worth more later on. Some say the opposite. If it's worth less, if all that you owe of the principal is less than a shava pruta, whether it's here or not here, you don't have to bother schlepping all the way there. You have to return it to him maybe, but you don't have to schlep all the way to LA to pay him. We're not concerned that maybe it's going to be worth more later on. Amarava, similar idea. Gazel shalosh agudas. Let's say you stole 3 bundles, b'shalosh prutas, and the 3 bundles were worth a pruta each, a total of 3 prutos. V'huzlu, and now they became the value went down. They were devalued. Bamdu shtayim. Now the 3 bundles together are worth only 2 prutas. Im hechsul shtayim, and now you return im hechsul shtayim. If you return to him 2 of the bundles, chayv lachzor acheres. You have to return the other one also. Now you might say, well, each one is worth less than a shava pruta. No, you still have to pay him back. You still have to pay back the other one. Why? Because when you stole the 3, they were each worth a pruta. Now you're saying, what if you return 2? You only have 1 left, and that's less than a shava pruta, right? So you don't have to return it. You still have to return it because when you stole it, it was worth a pruta. Tanatuni, you see a proof from this brisa. We had this case before. Gazo chametz. Let's say you stole chametz from somebody. You stole a loaf of bread. It was worth 10 shekels. Of Pesach, and now Pesach passed by. Now it's worth nothing. You could just give back the bread. Tamid Isabenim, because it's here right now. I stole the bread. Here's the bread. Halesabenim, if it wouldn't be here right now. Avagav the hashta lav mamona. Even though right now lav mamona, it's not worth anything, but it's not here right now. Even to be karamona, since originally it was mammon, boy shlume, you have to pay back. So if I stole a loaf of bread worth 10 shekels, now it's after Pesach, I can just give him back the loaf of bread. Let's say the loaf of bread's not here anymore. Do I owe him the 10 shekels, or I say, well, the loaf wasn't worth anything today? No, since when I stole it was worth 10 shekels, I got to pay him shekels. Hachanami here, the same thing. I stole 3 bundles worth of pruta each. Now all 3 bundles together only worth 2 prutas, so each bundle's worth less than a pruta. Do I have to return it? I still have to return it, even though the hashla pruta, given the mikara v'shava pruta, since originally it was a shabbat boishlim, you have to pay it. Boy, Rabba gazel shtei agudas b'pruta. Let's say I stole 2 bundles together worth a pruta. And I return one of them. So what do you say there? Mao, mi amrin and hashta like exela, right? You say, well, now there's nothing stolen. What do I have left? There only a half a pruta. That's not considered exela. Odilma, like exela, gabe, I don't have anything on because less than a shav pruta, I don't owe anything. I returned one of the 2 bundles worth a half a pruta. Now all I have with me is 1 bundle worth a half a pruta. So maybe I don't have to do an odilma, hello har exela. I haven't returned what's stolen. I still have the stolen goods with me. Hadar Pashta. Then Rava, after he asked the question himself, he was poshed at the Shaila. Gzela ein kan, hashava ein kan. There is no steal. There's no gzela, and there's also no hashava. Now, what does that mean? If there's no gzela, that means that I did make a good return. Gzela ein kan. If there's no gzela, that means hashava ishkan. I did make a proper. I stole 2 bundles worth together 1 pruta. If I returned 1, that's good enough, because now all that's left with me is half a pruta. So how can you say that there's no gzela and there's no hashava, there's no returning? If there's no gzela, that means that I did make a proper hashava yeshkan. This is what means to say, afal pisha gzela ein kan, even though I don't have any stolen goods with me anymore, because what I have left with me is less than a pruta, mitzvah hashava ein kan, I haven't fulfilled properly the mitzvah hashava, which is to return the whole thing, right? I have to return the whole thing, and that I haven't done. All right, we'll pick it up from here tomorrow. Mitzvah from Amarava. We're down about halfway down on the page. Amarava, right at the beginning of the line. We'll pick it up from there tomorrow. Mitzvah. Have a good day, everyone. Kol tov.
Beautiful. Kol tov. Beautiful.
The value of the Shava always goes back to the initial infraction.
That's right. That's the initial infraction.
Always goes.
Right. It goes back to, but the initial infraction here was the same thing. I stole 2 bundles, each worth a half a pruta, right? So, I returned 1 of them. So now we're not arguing about the original price and the current price is the same. They're both a half a pruta, but I don't have to return. It's less than a pruta. I haven't stolen anything. It's less than a pruta. So the answer is it's not considered gzela in my hands because I have less than a shav pruta doesn't count. On the other hand, I haven't done a proper returning. But let's stay shemaim. I should have returned the whole thing.